We seek to gather insights into a host of issues, especially concerning religion. Though hugely helpful, religion becomes a prison if it is not transcended. Beyond religion, we meet as human beings, free to love and cherish each other. Here, we celebrate our freedom to be richly and rationally human.
If there is only one God,
Yeah.
why are there many religions?
Yes. The question that is raised with me is, if there is only one God, how come there are many religions in the world? Of course, religions are of two kinds. One set of religions is polytheistic religions, that is, religions that believe in many gods. And then there are monotheistic religions, that is, religions that believe that there is only one God. Judaism, Islam, Christianity are all monotheistic, and other religions are polytheistic. Though, of course, there are differences of opinion on this matter. There is general consensus that in spite of the variety that we see in the manifestations of God, ultimately there is only one God. Now, for example, if you see God as the creator, you can't have many creators. There can only be one creator. So let's assume, and this is the general consensus, that there is only one God, and the multiplicity of gods arises because people in different contexts, cultures, ages seek God and derive an idea or derive an experience of God. From that, they have an idea of God which they try to embody through certain symbols and forms. Therefore, you have various gods. Now, why various religions? And this is a very complex question. So I would request our viewers to listen very carefully in this matter. I'll try to be as brief as I can. Now, I think of humanity as continuously progressing over a long period of time. Just as you began your studies, say in the kindergarten, then moved on to the elementary school, the primary school, then middle school, high school, higher secondary school, undergraduate, postgraduate, doctorate, like that. You see, humanity, of course, takes a long span of time. What happens, say, in a day's time, in our life may correspond to maybe 5,000 years or 10,000 years in the life of humanity. So, the idea of God that a people develop depends on their own development. You can't expect people, say, 50,000 years ago, who are living in the lap of nature, to develop an idea of God that is universal. You see, we live in the modern age, which is highly connected. It is the global village. What happens in one corner of the world immediately affects the other corner of the world. But even 100 years ago, people lived in their own villages. In India, people did not go beyond their villages. Certainly 200 years ago, going beyond your village was unthinkable. So people thought that their village was the entire world. There was nothing beyond their village. So in such a state, people develop their idea of God, which is confined to their small little spaces, and they have their own understanding. So it goes on like that. At the same time, through every successive expansion of humanity's religious awareness, as a human family, we are progressing more and more towards the understanding of the divine. I'm not saying that one religion is superior to the other or inferior to the other. That's not what I'm saying. I'm only saying that human species, first of all, man has a basic and undeniable need to know, love, and worship God. There is no question about it. There is no people group known in history without some form of worship, some idea of God. So humankind's need for God is most fundamental, and therefore religion is present everywhere. So you have different kinds of people living in isolated pockets without any interaction among themselves, and they create their sense of God out of their limited experiences, and therefore you have a particular idea of God developing in that society. In the meanwhile, another people group living somewhere else, handling a different set of life, a different set of problems in life, different circumstances of life, would develop their own idea of God, and they give a certain shape to their idea of God. So what is important in all of this is the fact that there is a deep connection between the human and the divine. One is incomplete without the other. What specific forms are created by human beings in their march through history is not the important thing. Just as various ways of life developed and disappeared, and even in our times, for example, various fashions came and went, so also people, out of their genuine thirst for knowledge, looking through their own experiences in the world, using their imagination, using their longing of the heart, tried to embody their experiences of God in a particular fashion. And that eventually becomes religion, right? So, to me, all of them are similar in the sense that they are the byproducts of, or they're the products of man's deep thirst for God, right? So, what is common to everyone is God. Now, whether this God resembles the other God, whether in the Indian context, where supposedly there are 330 million gods, etc., that's not the issue. The issue is that a human being is incomplete without God, right? So, now, for example, you may cook a dish in your own manner, right? I may use the same ingredient and cook a different dish which tastes differently, but which gives me the same nourishment, right? So it's something similar. All these analogies have their limitations, and I'm just thinking off the cuff. So what is important is, and this is what I want to emphasize, what is important is not to emphasize differences. Unfortunately, over the last several centuries, our forefathers, our ancestors, including us, have committed this grievous blunder, in my opinion, of looking at religions in terms of differences. Oh, say your religion is polytheistic. My religion is superior because it is monotheistic. My religion is revealed. Your religion is not. This is not the issue. This shows a very cheap mentality. What is important is not differences. Differences are played up by those who are unspiritual. Spirituality, in my opinion, is the ability to see through appearances, the outward appearances, and understand the inner reality. The inner reality is the same. What is the inner reality? That human beings have a genuine need for God, and they remain thirsty and hungry without a sense of oneness with God. That is the genuine thing. And all these other things are on the surface of things. So I have no problem in respecting the quest for God and the experiences of God coming from any culture, any religion, any period in history. And to me, they all add up to the spiritual heritage of humankind. Right? So I want to emphasize that though it seems outwardly we have many religions, the fact of the matter is that there is only one God. And because of human limitations, as we try to know, love and relate to this God, we do it in our own different fashions. For example, I'll give an illustration. If a young man is in love with a beautiful girl, say in the Western culture, he would send her a bouquet of flowers on her birthday. In India, we won't do it because that's not our culture.
Yes.
Right. Now, when I was growing up, it was not at all a done thing for birthdays to be celebrated or organized in a hotel. Right? And birthdays were not really celebrated. It was a small little family thing. But today, the style has changed.
Right.
Right? Now, of late, for example, weddings are conducted not in churches. In the last 3 months, I've attended at least 2 weddings in Kerala, where the wedding ceremony is not conducted in churches. It is in some heritage places. So these things are changing. These norms keep changing. But that doesn't mean that it's not a wedding. The important thing is the wedding. The important thing is that a man and a woman in love are coming together to create a family. That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
You can't say, well, this is not a wedding, or this wedding is inferior because it is in a heritage place, or that is superior because it is in a church, or this is even better because it is officiated by a bishop. This is all stupid. These are the things that only shallow people say. So I think the time has come for us to take the emphasis away from superficial differences and learn to respect the thirst of every human being to attain oneness with God. And as St. Augustine says, my soul is restless until I have found my rest in God. That is the fundamental reality. And when you look at this reality from that point of view, then you're convinced that there is only one God. How does it matter then that there are different religions, just as there are different people groups, different cultures, different places, different ages? Obviously there will be differences. But why should I be offended by this? Now, I would say one thing more. Those of us who have flown, traveled by aircraft, we know, for example, that as the aircraft takes off, the things on the ground, they begin to look smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Ultimately, they even disappear. That is, as you climb higher and higher and higher, all these differences on the ground cease to matter. But while you are on the ground, you look at somebody and say, oh, why do you have a mustache that big? Or why are you wearing your t-shirt in this manner? Look at you, look at your slippers. Or look at my shoes. All these things become important because we are at the level, at a very low level. Ascend to higher levels, then you find that all these things cease to matter. Only one thing matters. There is God. God is equally the Father of all. He is the Creator of all. God loves everyone. And every human being needs that love. And that love is available to everyone. And this is the core of religion. That core I find in all religions. Therefore, differences in the color, the smell, the symbols of religion don't upset me. I respect everybody's quest for God, everybody's need for God, everybody's experiences of God. So, at that level, religion can be a source of human oneness. Otherwise, if you keep emphasizing the differences, religion will continue to divide us and serve as a source of hate, malevolence, and disturbance in human societies.